Hello, and welcome to another episode of Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm excited for a very special new live with a very special guest, Dr. Keanna Ralph. And I'm so excited to have her here today. Dr. K is the CEO of Dream Chasers International. She is also the founder of Fire Starters, and she is a faculty of Rutgers in the School of Business. So I'm very excited that Dr. Keanna is here today, just working through some things in the studio, but very excited to have Dr. Keanna here today as our very special guest on Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. And today we're talking about purposefully becoming, building and executing your development plan. And we want to know whether or not you have a growth strategy and what is your growth strategy. And if you stay to the very end on today, you'll have an opportunity to gain some valuable insight. We're going to talk about how you can be intentional about solving problems in the world with your purpose, and we're going to have an opportunity to talk about how you can be intentional with your growth. So we do want you to be sure that on today you're typing your questions in the comments on YouTube or whatever the respective platform is that you are utilizing to watch today. And we have some special insight that we want to give. If you're not familiar with how to develop your own professional development plan, your personal development plan that's in alignment with purpose, we're going to give you some insights on how you can use AI tools to help you to be able to develop your personal or professional development plan. So don't go anywhere. We have a sponsor message, and we're going to be back with Dr. Keanna Ralph on this special segment of Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson as we share about purposefully becoming, building and executing your development plan. So we'll be right back after this message.
Dreaming of writing a book, launching a podcast, or creating a digital course? Ready to finally align your career, creativity, and impact? The Purpose Aligned Life Premium Coaching Cohort is here to help you turn purpose into reality. You'll receive tailored services, a personalized one-on-one assessment, 10 weekly group sessions, and exclusive strategy session, all for your desired transformation.
And if you're interested in participating in the next cohort for the Purpose Aligned Life Premium Group Coaching Program, the link to register for a Zoom interest meeting is in the chat. So on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, the respective platforms, you can see the link in the chat. So the information is there in the chat for you on the next interest on opportunities to schedule your interest meeting for the Purpose Aligned Life Premium Group Coaching Program. So I'm excited. Thank you all for tuning in on tonight. If there's any questions that you all have related to our topic today, we do encourage you to drop those questions in the chat on YouTube. And we're talking about, again, purposefully becoming, building and executing your development plan. What is your growth strategy? So if you don't have a growth strategy, grab a pen and paper, because we're going to give you the tools that you need to develop your growth strategy. So I'm excited to welcome Dr. Keanna Ralph. Keanna, welcome to the Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson podcast.
My pleasure, Dr. Abel. I'm so glad to be here with you today, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. I know it's going to be awesome, and I think it's very timely for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to the discussion as well. Now, I shared a little bit about you, that you're the CEO of Dreamcatchers International, founder of Fire Starters, and you also have the pleasure of being a faculty member, a professor at Rutgers University in the School of Business. And I didn't mention, to those who are watching, that you're a leadership strategist and authenticity coach. And I know that's something that is so important when we talk about purpose. And you're also a published author. But there's more, I'm sure, that the audience would like to know about you. So can you share insight about yourself with our viewers?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so several years. So first of all, I've been coaching and doing consulting work for almost a decade now, and it grew out of a passion to see people be able to live out their purpose, and to be able to connect the dots. Because I remember when I was taking my master's, finishing up my master's program in 2005, I was coming across different organizations, particularly nonprofit organizations, where they had a great vision, a great plan, but that strategy piece was missing. And so therefore they weren't able to effectively move the needle forward and accomplish many of the goals that they had intended to. And so early on, when I was still well in my early 20s, I knew that one day I would live out a calling, what I believe is a calling, to help support individuals and organizations to be able to realize those dreams, to be able to ultimately achieve their goals and do it in a way that's sustainable, right? And so that's one of the things that led me to recently, I would say over the past couple of years, rebrand to a leadership and authenticity coach, because I truly believe that when a person is in alignment, right, when they are in alignment with their authentic self, that it allows them to be more intentional, more effective, and not only living out their truth, but doing it in a way that taps into their giftings, right? Because I believe everyone is gifted, naturally gifted and talented for the very purpose and mandate that's been placed on their lives. And when they come and when they are able to embrace their authentic self, then they're able to connect the dots and see how those talents, those gifts and abilities ultimately were all placed with inside of them to achieve the goal of greatness, because I believe everyone has greatness inside of them.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And sometimes, because everyone has greatness on the inside of them, sometimes people have, they don't have the insight on what they are possessing and what's on the inside of them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes someone helping to highlight, that greatness, to highlight the skills, the abilities, the talents that they have. And so I see people are typing in the comments. I see we have, thank you, Talia, for saying hello. And I see Edenam Kwame has responded on LinkedIn saying, indeed, this discussion is very timely. God bless you all. So thank you, Edenam Kwame Owosu, for that feedback and just sharing that it's timely for you. And God bless you as well. So thank you so much for sharing that comment. And I'm getting a note from Rosario Pavitt that is saying that you're hearing an echo. So, Rosario, if you don't mind putting in the chat, are you still hearing an echo now, or is the echo resolved? Of course, I'm not hearing it on my end, but that would be great to let us know if you can still hear an echo. But I want to jump back into things because you talked, Dr. Keanna, about how everyone has greatness on the inside of them. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that we all have greatness on the inside of us. So, my question for you, Dr. Keanna, is what if there's someone who's viewing and they haven't just realized the greatness that's on the inside of them? What is something that they can do so that they can identify or recognize the greatness that they possess on the inside?
So, Dr. April, that is an excellent question. And I'm so glad you asked it because I believe that this is going to help a number of people, right? And so first off, one of the things you want to do is begin to identify those things, those areas in your life, those we call it gifts, right? And you recognize a gift is when you recognize a gift, when it's something that comes easy to you, but for others, they may struggle with it. It could be that thing that people usually reach out to you. For instance, people, since I was young, people would reach out to me for advice, for encouragement, for direction, for strategy. Right? So now today I'm a strategist. But you want to think about that. You also want to think about those things that the thing that evokes the level of emotion from you, right? Whether it brings great joy or maybe great sadness because you see a void there and you feel led and are prompted to intervene, right? And to provide some type of solution there. And you also then you want to be able to think about and I have to say this, self-discovery. How can you go on a journey of self-discovery? I feel like we don't take enough time to really sit with ourselves and to learn ourselves and understand ourselves. And that will involve times of reflection, self-reflection. It can also involve self-assessments. I'm a huge fan of self-assessments because, sometimes we need a little additional assistance to be able to pinpoint those areas that we may be naturally gifted and talented in, but may not have even recognized it just yet, right? And and I'm sure Dr. April, just knowing you, I'm sure that that's something that you too can attest to the value in assessments and being able to utilize assessments to dig deeper. And I like to say, peel back the layers of that onion, because oftentimes as we're peeling back the layers of that onion, we're discovering new things about ourselves, new passions, right? And the things that light us up, the things that again give us joy. And so those are some questions and some of the things that I would encourage a person to start considering when they're on that path, right? To determine what their purpose is and being able to tap into that greatness. You got to look within. Don't make the mistake of running after the red shiny object. I think a lot of people fall victim to that, where they're so focused on, oh, so and so is doing well in this space or this field, and they seem to be, excelling in this area, but that's often because they tapped into their space of genius, right? And so therefore they're finding that level of success. And so that's why, I really emphasize authenticity, because when you're in alignment with your authentic self, then you can take advantage of your superpower. And your superpower is you. It's your uniqueness, your individuality. That's your secret sauce, right?
That's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know it's important for us to be authentic, for us to embrace the uniqueness that we have. And so I see we're getting some questions and some comments, and I do thank all of you who are putting your questions and your comments in the chat on the respective platforms. And I see we do have a question on YouTube, and this question is, what's one small action viewers can take today? And this is a question that Stavros posted. He just wants to know, what's one small action that viewers can take today?
Yeah. That's a great question. So, going back to the whole idea of self reflection and self assessment, I would encourage every leader to take it's called this 360-degree assessment, leadership assessment, right? And that's when you're focused. This is a particularly helpful for those who may be on the corporate space, or you're in a space where you have both. Subordinates and maybe superiors as well, and a superior as well. And so the whole idea is to get a broad view and scope of how people see you, right? And those that you interact with. And you're giving them this assessment to get real time feedback from them on how they view you in terms of the different skill sets that you have, your strengths, and then your weaknesses, right? Because that will help you to be able to develop your own SWOT analysis, right? And many of you probably are familiar with SWOT. Stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I think it can be very helpful to develop your own, take time to really flesh out your own SWOT analysis, because that gives you an understanding of all those key areas. And you can use that feedback that you're gathering from those individuals around you to further help you and being able to work that to your advantage and learn more about you.
That's good. Thank you so much, Dr. Keanna, for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that. And, I see there's a lot of questions that are coming in the chat. So Brandon has asked, what role does mindset play in long-term success? And, I want us to both talk about that, because mindset is critical. Oftentimes if we don't see ourselves right, we won't have the right outcomes. And being able to ensure that we have a focus, especially when we talk about development, because tonight we're focusing on development. And sometimes if we don't realize the importance, or one, who we are, and two, the importance of being aligned with purpose, we can often go down a path that takes us further away from, fulfilling purpose in our lives. And now we have people who need what we have, the gifts, talents that we have, and they need us to be aligned and operating in our purpose so that it helps to solve problems within the world. So mindset plays a critical role in long-term success, because if you're not seeing yourself right, and you're not seeing the value of, bringing who you are, fully, and operating in your purpose, then that can hinder your long-term success. So Dr. Keanna, if you can just share how mindset can impact our development, because we're talking today about this very important topic of being purposeful, right? We're talking about purposefully becoming and building and executing our development plan as we purposefully become. So how does mindset play a role in us and our ability to purposefully become as we are developing personally and professionally?
So can I tell you how much I absolutely love that question? So anyone who knows me knows that I am a mindset advocate, right? And part of even the reason I rebranded was so that I can be very much more intentional and incorporating mindset into my business model. Because as I was meeting with clients over the years, I discovered one important thing, and that was if they weren't able to conquer the battles in their mind, right? That mindset piece, and then they were limited in their ability to achieve their goals. And so I intentionally now incorporate that into a lot of my coaching strategies and coaching community and different things that I do, because I believe that is a critical component. And I remember hearing Tony Robbins say before that when it comes to being a successful entrepreneur, successful in any space, that 80% of it is psychology and only 20% is skill set, right? And so we have to invest in our mindset no matter where you are in your respective area. Mindset is always going to be a very vital component of your success, right? And so I think it's important to prioritize it. This is why they always say, don't pour from an empty cup. This is especially true for those who are in leadership roles and you're constantly being pulled on. You have to make sure that you're refueling yourself and you're continuing to take time to reset and recalibrate as needed so that you can also have that mental stamina to keep going. I think you were about to say
Absolutely.
something.
Yes.
Okay.
No, go ahead. I just
Oh,
wanted you
okay.
to make sure you finished your thought because
Yeah.
I want to
Okay.
shift a little bit.
Okay, all right. So before we shift, I do want to leave people with a couple of tips, the different things that they can do to help in that space of mindset, right? Number one, I'm a huge component of deep breathing. It's very simple. Deep breathing is something you can do at any point in time throughout your day. It's always recommended that you do it in the beginning of your day, in the morning, when you wake up. Take time to do some deep breathing, meditation work, breath work, they call it. And it's simple. Just take a deep breath in, hold, and exhale. And that you'll be surprised of how that can regulate your nervous system, right? And again, another thing, gratitude. Gratitude is so important. And I tell people it doesn't have to be anything major. Gratitude, you can take time the moment you wake up, think of three things that you're grateful for. They don't even have to be huge. Like it doesn't have to earth shattering things. It can be simple as I'm grateful for the birds that are chirping outside my window right now. I'm grateful for the pillow that I get to lay my head upon today. You'll be surprised how much taking time to express gratitude will literally shift your mood, right? Because it's been scientifically proven that you can't complain, right, while being grateful at the same time. The two cannot happen simultaneously. And so as you intentionally create that space of gratitude, that will help you as well. And I, in faith, I am a believer, and for me, I know faith has held me together. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my relationship with God and how that has been an anchor even when it comes to mindset. And so I definitely believe that. So I stopped there because I know there are other questions, but there's so much to be said. But I will say this: I am hosting a complimentary mental health panel discussion on May 30th, and we're doing this in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month because I do believe that we have to pay attention to our mental health. And so I yield the mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I want to shift because I think, in the vein of talking about mindset, we have to go back to how important being intentional and how important being purposeful is. So, and I want us to talk about some practical things when it comes to our development and when it comes to viewers creating a development plan. And I think the first thing that they should do is to stop and take a moment and think about what their purpose is. Think about what their purpose is. Think about what they're passionate about. And think about what the deep desires are. I really believe God places desires in our heart and He fulfills those. But we have to be willing to move forward to do what we're dreaming about, move forward to take action on those desires. So first, looking at purpose and looking at passion and looking at the deep desires, the dreams that you have. So I think that's the starting point when we begin to create a development plan. And once you think about those things, then thinking about what is the impact that you want to make. What problems do you want to solve in your community, in your state, in your country, in the community that you live in? Think about the problems that you want to solve, how you can use your purpose and what you're passionate about to do that, right? And think about the skills and the gifts and the ability and the education and the knowledge that you have. And so once you've thought about those things, now think about where the gaps exist, the gaps between what you desire to do and what you already are aware of that you have the capacity for and the capability for. And then writing a list of what your needs are, right? And then after you have your needs, then identifying how those gaps can be closed. So is it closed through a webinar? You know, you mentioned having your event coming up on the 30th that is in, you know, alignment with efforts towards, you know, really making ourselves the best version of ourselves, especially from a mindset standpoint and from a mental health standpoint, right?
Yes.
Looking at whether or not there's a book that you can maybe read, or mentorship that you can have, or coaching that you can have that can allow you to get there. And then, you know, creating a timeline, you know, those particular courses, the particular books, the particular webinars, whatever it is. It could even be informational interviews. It could be internships, but whatever it is, putting a comprehensive list together with timelines and the steps that you need to take. What other things would you recommend when we're being intentional and when we're using mindset when it comes to preparing a development plan for our lives, professionally or personally?
Oh, that's such a good question. And do you mind if I share a story? Because
You can
I
share a
love
story,
stories.
yes.
Okay. All right. So, I remember when I was in a space where I felt like I was out of alignment in terms of my purpose. And it's some years ago, almost actually maybe 10 years ago or so. And I was in a car accident. And I remember went to pick my car up. It had about $8,000 worth of damages. And as the individual was reading down the bill, basically, of all the charges for each item that they've prepared, he was going down the list, maybe $300 for the headlights, $1,000 for the bumper, and so forth, so forth. And he got down to the end, towards the end of the bill, and he said, "Oh yes, and $99 for alignment." I'm like, so I'm thinking to myself, an alignment? Why? I mean, the car was the accident impacted the exterior of the vehicle. Why? What does that have to do with the interior side, the alignment, the part where it needs an alignment? And it dawned on me in that moment that sometimes life can hit you. You can take a couple of punches in a way where it pushes you out of alignment, right? It's impact after impact. Setback after setback. And the next thing you know, your car is like wobbling, right? Right. You ever drive a car out of alignment? It's hard to steer in the right direction, right? That's one of the best ways, unfortunately, to find yourself out of purpose and out of, you know, your assignment. And, you know, I realized something, that fulfillment is found when we're in alignment with our divine assignment. And many times, just like I had to get my vehicle repaired and maintenanced, right? Or we had to get regular maintenance on and having our vehicles aligned. We have to do the same with ourselves. We have to make sure that we're doing that regular maintenance on ourselves. As you mentioned earlier, that could look like reading a book. That could look like attending a conference, symposium. That could look like joining a coaching program. I know you have a phenomenal one, Dr. April, too, that you help people with that very thing as well. And so I think it's about, what can you do to grow yourself, and grow yourself in different aspects, right? Because sometimes we focus too much on the career side, that we don't think about for professional development, that we don't also think about the personal development. And that's how we're able to do both simultaneously, right? When we're talking about the mindset piece, right? We're able to do both the mindset piece and the purpose alignment piece, right? When we're engaging in the personal development piece. And so I like this quote that Jim Rohn said one time. And he said, if you want to make a living, work hard on your job. But if you want to make a fortune, work hard on yourself. And I think that's the key element, right? That's how we stay in alignment. And when you are in alignment, you'll find that as you're on that path, that path that has been destined for you, then the right things will come your way. You'll find yourself being able to get positioned in the ways that is necessary for you to achieve those goals. And so I would say the key word, if you don't remember anything else, is intentionality. we have to be intentional, right? And we can't not assume that any road will take us to success, right? And so, all right, one last story, and I'm not. There's a story about a guy who was he was traveling by horse through a town, and unfortunately the horse just took on a mind of his own, and so it just took off running, galloping, and so much so quickly that he wasn't even able to speak to the people as he was riding by. So they, frantically yelled at him, and they said, "Hey, mister, where are you going?" And he said, "I don't know, wherever the horse takes me." And unfortunately, there are
Wow.
many people that are living their lives just like that. That they're allowing themselves to be carried through life
Wow.
without having clear direction on their purpose and where they desire to go. And so I think, again, it comes back to that word of intentionality, that we
Right.
have to be intentional about the action steps that we take every day that moves the needle forward towards us achieving our ultimate dreams and our destiny.
Absolutely. And it's important. It's important for us to be intentional about planning, intentional about our development, intentional about where we're going, and not allowing someone else to make those decisions for us, right? And ensuring that we're not only purpose aligned, but in making our decisions that, we're being, driven by purpose, and we're allowing that to, to take precedence in our lives. So I want to shift for a little bit, because part of the development process, as we are developing personally, as we are developing professionally, as we're developing in every area of our lives, even spiritually developing and developing from an academic standpoint. If you look at all the different forms of development, of course, personal and professional development are the biggest categories, right? But when we look at development, we have to do an assessment of what we have, the skills that we possess. And we talked earlier about, the uniqueness that we all have. And Richard has asked an excellent question. He asked, how can someone discover their unique strengths?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question, right? That's a great question. And it goes back to the conversation we had earlier about self-assessments, different assessments I've actually facilitated in different spaces, different corporations, include like the Myers-Briggs assessment, oh gosh, why is this slipping my mind right now? But there's
There's
other
the
ones like the
Kiersey.
StrengthsFinder assessment. I'm sorry, what was that?
There's the Kiersey temperament.
That one.
So you have the MBTI, the Myers Briggs, you have the
Yeah.
Kiersey, you have DISC, you have
Disc, that's
colors.
the one.
Okay.
Disc, that's the one. Yes. And so I did a variation of disc for the senior leadership team for DRPA before, and they really enjoyed it. And what I find is that the beauty of those type of assessments is not only does it help you on the individual level, but when you're operating in a team, being able to understand being able to understand the makeup of your teammate, also your peer, also is helpful, because now, like for instance, let's say you work with someone who's a critical thinker, right? The C stands for anyone who's not familiar with DISC. D stands for a person who's who's driven or a doer. I stands for a person who's like an influencer, right? S stands for a person who has more of a servant's heart, and C stands for individual who is a critical thinker. And the more you understand, the more you know about the makeup of your teammate, let's say you're a D, right? You're a driven individual, but you're working with a C, someone who has a critical mindset. And none of it is, when I say critical, critical is not a bad thing, right? Critical, it means that they are very analytical. So I would, let me use that word for now. Someone who has more of an analytical mindset. So if you present a project to them and you want them to just, take off immediately and run with it, you may not get that response, right? You may get the response where they're first doing all of this like in-depth research. They're, checking this, checking that, because how they're wired. That's their makeup. And so I can't get upset with them as the driver, because they're operating the way in which they were designed to operate. So the more we understand, right, people and how they're wired, the better we can work and co-labor together, right? And so that's one thing. Another thing too is get out there and do the work, right? So whether maybe you're in a space and you haven't been able to get a job yet in that particular space to see how it could be a strength, well, volunteer. Go somewhere where you can. I remember, especially in my early 20s, I spent so many years volunteering in my local church. And I also started up organizations, whether in college or in the community. And that helped me to discover my strengths because I was doing the work. And as I was actively engaged and moving and helping and guiding and serving, I learned more about how I was wired as a leader. In fact, I first learned that I was gifted in leadership when I was serving. I had started up a college organization, and we were taking the very assessments that I'm speaking of right now. It was called the SHAPE test that we took, and which stood for spiritual gifts. It's the heart, abilities, personality, and experience. And I remember taking that for the first time as a sophomore and realizing that I had the gift of administration. And that literally changed my entire trajectory so much. I even changed like my career path. Right. And so I was supposed to go to law school. I ended up going to get my master's in public administration instead, and then my doctorate in leadership. And so you'll be surprised how doing the work and how taking assessments can help you really understand and discover how you are wired.
Absolutely. And I want to also highlight for anyone who's taking any type of assessment, be honest with yourself, right? So answer the questions authentically. We talked about authenticity earlier, and that way you can have the right output on those assessments. We have a question from Leah. What advice would you give to young professionals? And the advice that I would give to young professionals is to discover your purpose early on, and pursue your purpose. Don't use the wrong information to determine a career path. Oftentimes people weigh the opinions of others, what someone else wants them to do, how much salary a position makes or doesn't make. They also consider the availability of opportunities within their geographic area. These are not the things that you should focus on, but discover your purpose and make your decisions that are career-based, decisions in your life based on alignment with your purpose. You want to continue to pursue purpose, continue to identify ways to do what you're passionate about, do what you love. And that's the advice that I would give to people who are young. It will save you the need to start over. I mean, we don't start from scratch, we start from experience, but it will allow you to avoid some experiences that you don't need to experience. And thank you so much, everyone, for the wonderful comments. We really appreciate that. So we are going to do our best to try to get to all the questions, but if we don't, then we will probably do another second portion of this to come back to answer all the questions. So we have a question, how do you measure progress in your development journey? And, the biggest key to that is by having SMART goals that are specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. And when you are looking at the specific goals that you have everything identified, the what, the where, the why, the how, all of these details, and you want it to be a duration that it needs to be of time that it needs to be completed within. I said earlier, when you're making your development plan, you need to have a time next to each item. Even if it's a book, you need a time frame. And that is really the way that you measure the progress in the development journey, by having a specific written development plan that has a timeline and all the specifics. So then you can go back and check. You can look at the date that you had it planned, and then you write in the date that it's completed and check it off. If you are creating goals and you don't have a way to measure it, then you're not being effective, and likely if you don't have a timeline, you're probably never going to get it done. So great question. And the next question I'm going to ask Dr. Keanna to answer, and this question is from Rosario, that says SWOT analysis works, but how, one plainly speaking, if one doesn't have courage to face the problems, it won't work. So I want to know how to build a support structure for that facing mindset. So thank you, Rosario. And Dr. Keanna, if you want to give a quick tip on some ways that viewers and Rosario can build a support structure to face the mindset if they don't have the courage.
I would actually say that that's more of an identity problem than a mindset problem, because when you know who you are and you are secure in that, then you're open to feedback, even critical feedback, because you understand that it's only going to support your growth, right? And I would encourage you and anyone in here that may have that challenge is I would study the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, because someone who has a growth mindset, you understand that receiving that type of feedback, even if it may come off a bit harshly at times, you understand that it only serves to help you and to grow you, right? And so the goal for everyone should strive to have that growth mindset. Now that means, so to go back to the other part of the question in terms of creating a community that supports that. Yeah, so I would say don't surround yourself with yes people. Surround yourself with people that will tell you the truth. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, better are faithful wounds from a friend than secret kisses from an enemy, or something to that effect, right? And so the people who love you and really deeply care about you and your advancement and growth, they're going to tell you those hard truths. And, the challenge for many of us is being able to receive it, right? Receive it in a way that will support your growth, and know that, have the lens that this is working for you, not against you. And when you know who you are and you're confident in who you are, then that's how you stay, that's how you're able to stay balanced in that way. Another thing too, in addition to your circle, right? And when I say your circle, that means your network, people that you spend time with, friends, family. Know that you're going to be the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're around people that's not committed to growth, that do not have a growth mindset, then you may struggle having a growth mindset yourself, right? So you want to make sure that you're evaluating your circle to ensure that you're spending time with people that inspires you to want to grow. Secondly, you can also, if you don't have those people around you, you can create that by joining spaces like what Dr. April offers. I also have a community that I launched called the Fire Starters community, where we do that as well. And so there's tons of communities out there. So get connected with a community, a group that will challenge you and encourage you to be your best self, right? To be the version of your best self. And so, I know that's other questions. I'll stop there.
Yes. And Edenam Kwame Owosu asked if it's possible for passion to remain authentic and fulfilling when it's separated from profession, or are people most impactful when what they love becomes what they do? And I'm going to, both of us, we're going to both answer this. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that it's important to keep in mind is that when you do what you love and love what you do, it comes across, right? When you align with purpose, you are naturally going to excel when you're aligning with purpose. I so believe the scripture that says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that will prevail. We can do something that's not in alignment with the purpose that God has for us, and we won't see the success that we should have. You can be successful doing the wrong thing, but there's something about being purpose aligned. I've shared before that my career just took off, when I aligned with purpose, and I was promoted 5 times in 8 years. And in the federal government, that's not common, right? People stay in the same position in the federal government, same grade for 20 plus years. But when you are doing what you love, when you're aligned with purpose, and you can do what you're passionate about and make such a big impact. If your profession is not aligned with your purpose, and your profession is not aligned with what you're passionate about, it becomes more challenging to do the work, right? And you also don't fully show up as your authentic self. There's a level of excellence that comes when you're working in alignment with purpose and with passion. And so you'll find yourself trying to augment with things that are your purpose and align with your passion, and now you find yourself juggling and balancing more things. But I want to hear what Dr. Keanna has to say about that. So Dr. Keanna, is it possible for passion to remain authentic and fulfilling when it is separated from your profession? Or are people most impactful when what they love becomes what they do?
Right. So that's a great question. And honestly, Dr. April, I think you nailed it in terms of your response, right? I will say this, and I want to challenge something, because you can have a position, you can have a job, let's say a 9 to 5, right? And also have a business, or for someone they would call it a side hustle as they're starting off. But you can have both. And I think beginning, most people do, because not everyone is ready to quit their 9 to 5 to go and live out their purpose, right? Because, and trust me, I've done that, and it wasn't that fun. I survived, thank God. I did quit my 9 to 5 managerial position and launched my business, but I did it because I was led by the Holy Spirit, and there was a grace that came with it. So while it may have had its challenges, I still was able to successfully build out my company. And so I think the key is being able to figure out how you can manage both. If you know that you're in a career and this career is paying your bills, even if it's not necessarily your passion or how you're wired, but if you're able to do it, then still do it to the best of your ability, and use the money from that to fund your passion. Use the money that you're bringing in to build that business, and do what is called moonlighting. Moonlighting is when you work your 9 to 5 and then you come home and you work the rest of the evening building up your business. And so both can be true, right? You can be in a space where maybe you're not living out your passion in your 9 to 5, but you can also be using that as a means to support you building and growing your passion on the side.
Thank you, Dr. Keanna, for sharing that. And the keeping in alignment with what Dr. Keanna just said, you want to make sure that you're working on both, right? And if working on both is laborious and what you're doing during the day is taking all of your energy, then you may have to find a way to make a pivot into a paid role, doing something that aligns with purpose, that you can use your skills and your expertise from, that still has an adequate salary for you while you're building the business or while you're building another career. I don't know if you all remember one of the prior guests who I had on the show, Dr. Gabby Odibade, and she was a medical doctor. She was in the healthcare profession, and she had a desire to launch a business to launch a catering business, and she eventually ended up launching a catering business, launching a cooking school, launching, writing, authoring books, also launching a foundation. And so she shared how she balanced, both while she was making the transition, from the healthcare space, right? So there's a way that you can do it, and you may need to have informational interviews to help you with that transition. You may need to have a career coach or a mentor to help you, or a success coach to help you. You may need to have someone to come alongside you, a leadership strategist, whatever the case may be, to help you to make that transition. And I
And I
know
do want
we're
to say, before we go on to the next question, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't normally I finish out, if I'm ever asked that question, I finish out with that the ultimate goal is to pivot. The ultimate goal is, to transition to making your passion your full time, right? But I was specifically speaking to the in between space that some people may find themselves at right now, where maybe they haven't been able to find a 9 to 5 that they can operate in passion, and you don't want to necessarily throw out the baby with the bathwater if there's no other alternative. And what I encourage people to do is to identify what is your freedom number, right? What is that number that you have to make? And as you're building up your business on the side and moonlighting, what is that number you have to make where you are comfortable with being able to step away and fire your boss? And that's the fun part, when you get to a point where you can actually fire your boss and say, I'm going out now and doing my own thing full time.
Yes, absolutely. And you are very welcome, Edenam Kwame. We appreciate you asking the wonderful question, and everybody else who is here with your engagement and with asking the questions that you have asked. It has been our joy to pour into all of you, and we're glad that you all are finding this conversation meaningful, and that you Ian found this to be a great message. And thank you, Rob, for sharing that there are so many gems that are being shared tonight. I even mentioned at the end about mentorship and coaching. So that's a great question, Jeff. Mentorship and personal development is very important, because often mentors are going to be able to help give you insights that you don't have. They're going to be able to save you time, resources, often save you money, because you're not learning from mistakes that you're making. You're learning from expertise, and you're learning from someone else's mistakes, from someone else's successes. And you have someone who has been successful, and they've already achieved what you're desiring to achieve, and they can help to guide you through that process and help you to avoid mistakes that could be costly. And so it's very helpful to have a mentor or a coach who can help you with your personal development. And so I want Dr. Keanna to weigh in as well, before I go into specifically showing how you can. We talked practically about how to create a development plan, but I also want to give you all some tools that you can use utilizing AI, because I said if you stuck through to the end, how you could actually use AI to help you craft your development plan. So, Dr. K, share your insight on the importance of mentorship and personal development, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. I think mentorship is so underrated, right? There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go with someone else. And so mentorship is able to help, as even Dr. April pointed out, help prevent you from falling into pitfalls, right? And so you almost want to think about it like this. When you have a mentor, it's almost like you're in the dark room, but you connect with someone that has your flashlight, and they're able to shed light on things that you may have normally missed if you did not have them there in your life supporting you through the process. And I know I can attest to myself, even though I have a bachelor's degree, a master's, and a doctorate, I have invested thousands upon tens of thousands actually and coaching and mentorship programs, because I understood that I would be able to get where I needed to in terms of my business, not only quicker, but in a way that will go further than what I could have done on my own, right? And so I think there is a lot of value to mentorship, and that, but the key is you have to connect with the right mentor, right? You have to connect the right mentor. And then you also have to be willing to receive the advice that they share. You have to you have to have a level of humility, so that, and respect the process. Understand that the role of that mentor is to support you and your growth and development. So take it, look at it from that vantage point. And if they give you feedback, that constructive feedback, receive it, even if it may, even if it may hurt a bit, because sometimes we need that, because it's ultimately making us better in the process.
Absolutely. And we had a question that said, can entrepreneurs and employees use the same growth strategy? Everybody needs their customized strategy, but the same framework that we've been talking about, everyone can use, regardless of whether or not they're in the traditional workforce or if they are an entrepreneur. So if you are an intrapreneur within the traditional workforce, or you're an entrepreneur in the marketplace, the same framework that we've talked about can be used in terms of the framework for the strategies. But each person needs a customized strategy specifically for them, specifically based on their purpose and passion, specifically based on what their goals are and the timeline that they want to do it in. And I want to share, and I'm acknowledging to all of you that this particular prompt that I would like to give you all, that I created for myself using AI, there's not the capacity for me to put the entire prompt in the chat. I don't think. I'm going to try it and see if it'll all go there. But I think there may be a character limit. But what I've done on some of this is I've put X's where you need to drop in what your the answer to each of these things, and I've put the number sign or pound sign for where you put the number of years. But I'm gonna put it in the chat. Let's hope that it goes through on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and it's circling around. So I don't know, it says can't post comments to some destination, so hopefully you'll get it. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to see if I can put it in a banner as well, so some of it will show up on the screen. So let's just see. I have 200 characters, and it looks like it's going to cut part of it off, but I'm just going to show the part of it that will show. But if you just give me a moment. So this is part of the prompt that I gave it. It won't show anything other than that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, because I want you all to see this, and I want you to see how this works, so you can actually use, so this live that we're doing right now, after the live ends, it'll later show the video of the live, and you can come back to it and you can do a screenshot and try to capture it to use the prompt. So this was a development plan that I created for myself, and you can use the same structure. So I want to share my screen with you so that you can see it. So I actually used ChatGPT, and I'm still kind of new to ChatGPT. I started using it in December. But I have gone to a couple of AI courses, and then I've just been playing around with it and learning more about ChatGPT. But I created my own prompt, and I gave it the full prompt of what I specifically wanted it to do for me. But what I did so that you all can use the prompt is I actually took out my goal and I put a number sign for the years of industry experience that I have. I have over 25 years of industry experience. But what I want you to do is change your degree level. If you don't have a degree at all, you can put a high school diploma. If you have a certification, you can drop that there. Drop what your specific goal is and when you want to accomplish it. I put a goal that I have for each quarter, and I'm asking for a 12-month development plan. And you can read all of this, including the books to read, seminars to attend, and other professional development courses and activities, right? And I even gave it the prompt that before creating a plan, ask me relevant questions to fill the gaps and share links to any recommended development options, right? So I said what I am currently doing. I'm establishing a professional development plan for myself. I put what my purpose is. So let me just hit enter, because I want you to see what it's going to do with, because I put X's there. So now it's asking me to answer these questions. These are the questions because I told it to ask me questions for the gap, right? So it's wanting me to now answer questions. So I took out the amount of professional about the 25 years. So now it's asking me that question, but it's asking me all the questions that it needs to ask me to formulate my development plan. Now, I'm not going to answer them now because I answered the questions earlier when I gave it the prompt originally. So what I'm going to go back and do is just show you what I did earlier, because I did this earlier in preparation, and because I didn't know if it would work or not. So I did it. These are the questions that it gave me. These are the answers that I gave it. And then this is the answers that it gave me. And it gave me the specific training with links because I asked for links to training. So keep in mind, any AI tool that you use, the prompt that you give it is going to determine the output and of course the capacity of whatever tool you use. So I can go to these different links to see the development opportunities based on the prompt that I gave it, and it outlined everything for me, and it tells me what the focus is for each of these options, and it gives me the development activity, it gives me the business application. So the only thing that I'm going to need to do with this is come back and put the dates of when I need to achieve this and the timelines and put a column. It even gives me a list of books to read, and that I need to read a book every 6 to 8 weeks. So I'm just showing you that if you use this prompt that I'm giving you and answer the questions, then you can have your own customized development plan. And I had just said that each person needs their customized development plan. They need their customized strategy that will work for them. And in saying this, I also want to say a lot of people talk about using AI and learning to use AI to solve problems, but you should also be using, as I've shared before, AI to help you to simplify what you're going to be doing anyway. It would have probably taken me, because in my time in the federal government as a leader, I would create development plans for staff. And it took much longer than that to create a development plan. And often I would send them to go and, put what is important to them, and then I would review it and add anything else that I thought added value, that I knew would add value based on my expertise. So we're taking something that could take days or weeks to do if you're doing a lot of research to find out the availability of courses and all of this. And I was able to do this. It was able to spit out the information within like 30 or so seconds, but the time that it took me to actually put in the prompts and do all of that and write the prompts that I came up with, it was about a 15-minute process from start to finish, right? So this is something that you can use to help you to create your own customized development plan for yourself, personal or professional or both, if you want it to be both. But I do want to also encourage all of you to also find the AI tools that are useful for the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis to save yourself time, right? So I want to thank you all for tuning in. Dr. Keanna, thank you for being our guest today. Is there anything else that you would, and I'm going to ask you a few more questions, but is there anything else as it relates to using AI for creating a professional development plan or AI skills that you can recommend to our viewers today?
Yeah, so first of all, it was such a pleasure to be here with you today. And I'm so glad that you added this piece on AI, because I feel like not enough people are taking advantage of it. And when I tell you how much time it can save you in the process, it's worth it. It's worth really understanding it. It's worth investing in it, right? Because while there are some free versions of it, with chats and Claude, it can be worthwhile to invest in the monthly subscription, which I believe is still 20 for chat, and I think 20 for Claude. At least I know that's what my monthly fee is for it. But it's more than worth it, because there are other features and you get more usage out of it. But in terms of your question about helping to support it with your professional development plan, I would say make sure that you take time to also train your AI, because the more it knows about you, the better it is. Same with the prompt, right? The better the prompt, the better the outcome. The same thing with the AI, they call it LLM, being able to understand you and be able to spit out information that really aligns with you, right? And understands you to the point where it can tailor that plan specifically to you. And so I would say that also is almost just as important as the prompt itself.
Great. Now, I know I talked a little bit earlier about the fact that you're a published author. Can you share about your books with our audience and how they can find your book if they're interested in purchasing?
Sure, absolutely. So the name of my book is called Detours to Destiny: When the Detour Becomes the Path. And recently published the third edition of it, where I added an additional chapter called Redemption, and just a quick snippet on the book, right? So it was based on Romans 8. It is based on Romans 8:28. So yeah, you know what? Yes, I need to take down the older version. So the older version of it is the $20 one, but it's the updated version of 24.99 one. That's the one that I recently republished, and it has the additional chapter, and it's just the edited version of it. And I will say, like, that's the version too that I even used AI to help do an additional edit. I've done all of my edits on the previous versions, except for the first one. The first version I did have someone edit it for me, but the second version I did all of the edits myself. And for the third version, I did the edits, but I also used AI to further support me in editing it. So it definitely helped enhance the book. And I recommend it for anyone who feels like they're in a space where you may feel stuck, where you feel like there's been things that have happened in your life that has taken you off course, and you are maybe even starting to lose hope, feel frustrated, feel depleted, feel like throwing in the towel, right? And so this is a book that not only gives inspiration, it's not only is an inspirational book, but it gives practical stories and advice on how you can basically create lemonade out of lemons, right? And turn that setback into a setup, so that you can get positioned in the area that was always best for you. Because this is the interesting about detours. Sometimes we feel like detours are a bad thing, but many times, if we approach it the right way, that detour can actually be the very thing to get you in alignment with your divine assignment. And that's basically the essence of the book, is teaching people how to use the detours to get positioned for destiny. Because even in the detour, guess what? Character is being developed. You're being fortified. You're learning new things about yourself that you may have not have paid attention to before. And so you want to make sure that you're approaching those challenges and the adversity in the life in a way that really transforms you and propels you into that next season of your life. And so as you can see, you can purchase it there on Amazon. It's also available on my website, which is superchargeyourdestiny.com. It's superchargeyourdestiny.com. And so where you can also get it with free shipping as well.
Thank you. And I know you talked a little bit about your upcoming event on the 30th of May. What else do you have on the horizon?
Yeah, on that same day, on May 30th, we are hosting a virtual open mic. It will be hosted on TikTok, which is where I've been building the community. And the purpose of this open mic is unique in that it's centered around healing. It's for those people who may feel like, they're burnt out, overwhelmed. Maybe they're still dealing with some type of trauma that has been holding them back, and they just need a space uh, a space for expression. Whether or not it's expressing themselves, right, or in a healthy way, or listening to someone else. Minister through their own gifts and talents that helps provide healing for them in that way. But it's called the Healing Room because it's my heart's desire that people will find healing in that space in an unconventional way, where we focus in on the arts, whether that's spoken word, whether it's song, and our instruments, and so uh, however you feel you're gifted and would like to share your gifts with the world, we're always looking for people to come on and perform, and of course we're always open to the public, and so anyone who wants to attend and just be there in that space, you're more than welcome. And then lastly, I'm also hosting a mastermind in Florida. And we actually are looking at I believe it's July 17th. I just gotta check my calendar because it's a new date. I'm sorry, it's July 19th. Nope, I was right the first time. It's July 17th. My apologies. So July 17th and 18th. And so we're super excited about that. I will be sharing more details to come as we're just fine tuning the location, solidifying all of those details. But I'm really excited about that. We're bringing together entrepreneurs, or those who have a desire to start their business. And we're focusing on starting with identity, beginning to deal with those key areas that may be hindering a person from moving forward, right? And as we then begin to peel away the layers of that onion, then we're going to start talking about more practical skills that it takes to really launch out. And whatever launching out may look like for that individual, maybe it's becoming an intrapreneur, right? Someone who is being a force and a key person. A key vital person in their organization, or is being an entrepreneur, someone who chooses to launch out and start their own business. We're going to talk about some of the key strategies that you can use to help you be successful, whichever route you choose. And then it's called an activation experience because we believe that there is also a spiritual component to this, right? That sometimes we need to let go of trauma. We need to let go of negative beliefs. We need to let go of unforgiveness or things from the past that we have been holding on to, and it's been holding us back. And so I firmly believe that this is activation season where we all need to get positioned and get in alignment with our divine assignment. And it may take someone really coming, locking hands with you and standing in agreement with you for that very thing.
Thank you. And I want to put your contact information if anyone would desire to contact you. I'm dropping your LinkedIn profile link in the chat. I'm going to also try to make that available on the screen. But if you don't mind, if viewers want to get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
LinkedIn is great. So you can find me under Dr. Keanna Ralph on LinkedIn. I'm also very active on social media. And so I have active community on TikTok under Dr. Keanna Lynette Ralph. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Keanna Lynette. I don't use my last name for TikTok, but Dr. Keanna Lynette. You can find me on TikTok. And then on Instagram, you can find me under Live Out Loud with Dr. K. Live Out Loud with Dr. K. And so those are all spaces where I frequent, and a person can just shoot me a message and go from there. I can
Fantastic.
also, I'm not sure if I can add comments, but I can drop my link tree
In
as
the
well.
YouTube. In the YouTube.
In the YouTube, yeah. So my YouTube is also Live Out Loud with Dr. K. I added to the chat.
Thank you very much.
You're
And then
welcome.
finally, two final questions. And I'm putting that live out loud with Dr. K for IG and YouTube in the chat. And then again, excuse me, on the screen so that they can actually see that on screen. So then I talked earlier about you being the CEO of Dreamcatchers International and the founder of Fire Starters. So what can people gain through Fire Starters and through Dreamcatchers International? Just a quick elevator on each of those.
Yeah, so for Dreamcatchers, that's really, I focus on the more on the consulting and speaking space. So if you're here and you have an organization and you would like someone to come out and do some training for you, whether I do a lot of professional development training, I do communications training, leadership training, and the executive coaching too. And so anyone that's more of for people who are in the corporate space, our nonprofit space even. And so, and then for fire starters, that is the coaching arm, right, of Dreamcatchers International. And that's where I get to work one-on-one with individuals so that they could be able to, again, as we've been talking about, get aligned with their divine assignment, and specifically align with their authentic self, right? So that they can uh, so that they can be able to, um, if they're experiencing any type of burnout, overwhelm, right, distress, right, that they're able to pivot and get transition themselves into a space and that's more and aligned with who they are, so that they can be impactful and effective, right, and they can also experience fulfillment too, because I believe that too, that also is very important. And so it's really helping people to get in alignment and get positioned.
That's good. Thank you. And then finally, as we close out today, I know we've had a meaningful discussion, a lot of engagement from the audience. So thank you, everyone who has stayed through to the end as we've talked about purposefully becoming, building, and executing your development plan. And we asked the question, what is your growth strategy? So if you didn't have one coming into this, we hope that you've developed one as you've been listening on tonight. So my question for you, Dr. Keanna, as we close out, is there any final thing that you would add to our viewers as we leave on tonight?
Yeah, I would say fell fast, because a lot of times people are scared of failing. They don't step out because they're afraid that they may make a mistake, and so they never step out at all. And more dreams die, you know, from fear and doubt than failure. So you look at, I think about a quote from Michael Jordan, and he says that he would have missed 100% of the shots that he never took. And so so basically, I'm telling you, take your shot. Like, don't be worried. Like, don't worry so much about the outcome. Just do it and be intentional and step out purposefully, right? As we've been talking about today, because instead of asking the question, we should be asking the question, what would happen if I do succeed? Because a lot of people talk about, oh, what if it doesn't work? But what if it does? Think about the quality of life that you would step into. Think about the fulfillment that you would experience. Think about the lives that you will impact because you chose to step out. And so I would say step out and own your greatness and trust that as God guides, that He will provide. And so, as they say, go and do the darn thing.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Keanna, for being our special guest on Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. This has been a wonderful discussion. And thank you to all of the guests who have tuned in on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thank you for the engaging comments that you all have provided on tonight, the wonderful questions that you all have asked. It's been my pleasure to host this very special episode of Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson as we talked about purposefully becoming, building, and executing your development plan. And thank you again for tuning in. And Dr. Keanna, I'll see you backstage. Thank you so much again for being a very special guest on Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. And thank you all again for watching. And I hope that you would tune in next week for another very special episode. We're going to do a special session as a part 2 on Tuesday from our session that we did on this past Tuesday. We had a lot of engagement, a lot of questions. So on Tuesday, we're going to have part 2 of Purpose Driven, Purpose Can't Be Fired, Help, I Am Unemployed. And so thank you again for tuning in to today's episode. Have an amazing, purpose-filled weekend. And this session will end after this final sponsorship message.
Dreaming of writing a book, launching a podcast, or creating a digital course? Ready to finally align your career, creativity, and impact? The Purpose Aligned Life Premium Coaching Cohort is here to help you turn purpose into reality. You'll receive tailored services, a personalized one-on-one assessment, 10 weekly group sessions, and exclusive strategy session, all for your desired transformation.
And if you're interested in registering for the next Purpose Aligned Life Premium Group Coaching Program cohort, you can use the link that is in the chat to schedule your interest meeting on Zoom. The next cohort starts on Wednesday, the 27th of May. Have an amazing, wonderful, purpose-filled weekend. Thank you again for tuning in.
Dreaming of writing a book, launching a podcast, or creating a digital course? Ready to finally align your career, creativity, and impact? The Purpose Aligned Life Premium Coaching Cohort is here to help you turn purpose into reality. You'll receive tailored services, a personalized one-on-one assessment, 10 weekly group sessions, and exclusive strategy session, all for your desired transformation.